Number 7, Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister for Building and Housing. Does he support abolishing Auckland's urban growth boundary and replacing it with a smarter way of managing urban growth that includes bond financing infrastructure? And if not, why not?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
The government is systematically dismantling Auckland's urban growth limit through special housing areas, the fast-track unitary plan, changes to the RMA, and this week we will be furthering this work with a national policy statement on urban development capacity. On funding infrastructure, the government reformed the system of development contributions in 2014 that enables a more flexible approach of development agreements that enable the use of infrastructure bonds. However, we need to be plain that the costs of water, sewage, footpaths and drainage of subdivisions should be met by the developer. It would be wrong for developers to convert bare land into sections, to take $450,000, the median section price in Auckland, and then get someone else to pay for the infrastructure works.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Which statement reflects the government's position? When Bill English said Labor's proposals on infrastructure financing were interesting and constructive, or when he said they were creative accounting and nothing more than fool's gold?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, the very changes that our government made to the Local Government Act does allow appropriate infrastructure bonds to be used for infrastructure. Where I disagree with the member is this. The idea that you have an infrastructure bond or a special rate to pay for the sewage, to pay for the water, to pay for the footpaths in an immediate subdivision, and bailing out the developer who picks up the big increase in value from sections, in our view, would be a mistake. It would support the land bankers rather than supporting the ordinary Kiwi families that need an affordable home.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Does he agree with the Herald that his approach to make more land available in Auckland without new methods of financing infrastructure is, quote, simplistic and on its own won't achieve much, but that Labor's infrastructure bonds plan is, quote, a very good answer?
Well, if only the Herald said
Dr. Nick Smith.
The member, as usual, makes it up. I would note, I would note this though. At the last election, Labor said the most you could get from Kiwi Build would be a growth of 12,500 homes in home building in this term of Parliament. We're on track to deliver double that, 25,000 homes for Auckland, and that shows the progress we're making.
Order. Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Does he think that Auckland Council's plan to drip feed 11,000 hectares of land into supply over the next 30 years is enough, or does he agree with Labor that getting rid of the boundary would do more to bring land prices down?
The Honourable Dr Nick
The
Smith.
irony in that member's statement is that when the Productivity Commission came out with exactly that recommendation, he called it an ideological burp from the extreme right. When I changed that policy 3 years ago and start implementing it, he said it was an, quote, idiotic policy. So I say to the member opposite, listen to his own advice. He's come a late conversion on the road to Damascus. We're getting on and doing the hard work.
Order. Order. Supplementary question, Alfred Nardo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, what growth has been achieved in the rate of new home constructions?
Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, the latest numbers out today show over 28,000 new homes over the last year and $17.6 billion in building activity, which is an all-time high for New Zealand. In this term of Parliament, we are expecting to build 85,000 homes. That's more than 25,000 more than the last Parliament, where 60,000 were built. And, Mr. Speaker, specifically with respect to Auckland, 36,000 homes are going to be built during the term of this 51st Parliament, and that is the largest number ever on record in Auckland.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
In light of that answer, how does he intend to build the 37,000 houses by the election that it would take for him to equal Labour's building record in office?
The
Mr.
Honourable
Speaker,
Dr Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, we need to be honest about what occurred in 2008, because with the GFC, the rate of home construction collapsed down to Labour's last month, where only 10 houses per week were being built. We're now building 40 houses per week, and it shows the progress that this government is making in building a record level of house construction.
Order. 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 I'll call the member. I don't need your assistance for the supplementary question, right,
To the
Honourable
Minister of Building and Housing. Has the Minister considered emailing his policies to Phil Twyford so that Phil can get and adopt those policies even quicker than taking the 12 months he normally takes?
Order. No, that question is out of order. 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 Question number 8.